Hey everyone, it's Gabe right here. I have my mom right here.
Hi.
And what are we making today, Mom?
Today we are making spicy chicken Alfredo from scratch.
All right, let's get to it.
All right, so first, I like Barilla linguine. So what you want to do is you want to salt the water and put a little oil in there and make sure the water boils before you put the noodles in there, because if you don't, the starch from the noodles will make this noodle stick together, and you don't want that.
Let's go.
So I could put a whole box of it in there. I don't like to break it apart. My mom used to do that when I was doing it. It drove me crazy. So we're gonna use a fresh block of Parmesan. You can also use Parmigiano Reggiano, which gives a nutty flavor, but this works just as well.
Hey guys, I'm gonna be cutting it this time, so it's all you do. It's the magic. Magic at work. Okay guys, a couple minutes have passed, and as you can see, we got the cheese all grated up. Pretty good, right?
All right, so we need heavy cream. So we're gonna finish up with 2 cups of it. So I use these chicken strips for the chicken. It's real chicken breast that's cut up into strips, and I use that. So all I do is just heat it up in a microwave for about 2 minutes to make it all nice and heated up.
Okay, so we let the noodles sit for 10 to 15 minutes. The box says like strictly 10, but we do a little bit more based on the taste. Make that taste good. So yeah, nice. Okay, so now we're gonna do the taste test to see if it's actually good. Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
All right, so the noodles are done. So now I'm gonna just strain it.
Okay, right now she's just making sure all the water is drained out.
So all the water's strained out when I'm ready to use it, because again, like I mentioned, the starch that's in the noodles. Before I serve it, I always shock it with cold water to separate the noodles so they don't stick together. So usually when I make chicken Alfredo, I just make it off the dome. But when my son was in Germany, Gabriel's brother was stationed in Germany, he wanted me to give him the recipe. So I made one. And after making it now, I follow my own recipe because it's easier for me. So I have my pan that I love to cook this in. I turn to heat onto medium. And then I use 2/3 of olive oil because I'm making a double serving because my husband and my son eats like wildebeest. So this is 1/3. And then 2/3. And then what I want to do is I want to get this nice and heated before I start to add all my other ingredients. So I'm going to take some minced garlic. I'm going to add it to my heated olive oil. And all I'm going to do is just stir this around to start to get fragrant. When I mean fragrant, you don't want it to burn or anything. You just want to get even more tender than what it already is. So now that the garlic is pretty much fragrant, you can smell the garlic. So now I'm going to add my chicken broth. It's 2/3 cup double, so it's 1 1/3 cup of chicken broth. So I'm going to add, and I'm going to let that come to a boil. So now the chicken broth with the oil and garlic mixture is at a boil. So now I'm going to add 1 cup of wine, white wine. You want a dry white wine, Sauvignon Blanc or Pinot Grigio. This is Pinot Grigio. And you're going to let that boil for about 3 minutes just to get some of the ethanol burned off. And that's it. Okay, now so the mixture has boiled with the wine for about 3 minutes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add cream. It is 2 cups of heavy cream. Again, we're doubling this though. 2 cups of heavy cream. Now, once I add the cream, you want to stir frequently to avoid it from curding. So now that the cream is added, I'm a very clean cook. So to avoid food getting underneath my nails, I always wear a glove when I'm adding the cheese because I don't want to get underneath my nails and get into the food. So all I'm gonna do is add the Parmesan cheese and keep stirring so it gets to a creamy consistency. And so all I'm doing is keep adding. Again, if you feel as though that the medium heat is too low, you can always put it to high, but you want to keep stirring to avoid the cream from curdying or to avoid the cheese and the cream from separating, or the cheese and the oil from separating. So now, because the sauce is not thick enough, which is how it usually happens, I like to make it a little thicker by adding cornstarch. And what I do, I take a cup of the sauce and I add about 1 tablespoon of cornstarch to it. So this is the sauce into a measuring cup, and then again I take 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. Argo is my favorite cornstarch. I add it to the sauce, and then I just stir it up. So now what I do is I take my cornstarch mixture and I add it to the sauce. And again, all this does is give me my desired thickness that I usually like. So now I'm gonna add some cayenne pepper. That's will give that spicy kick to it. I add about 1 tablespoon of it. You can add more or less, whatever you desire. And just stir it in. So this is what the cayenne, this is what it look like with the cayenne pepper in it. It gives it a slight reddish tint, which is what I want because it gives me my desired spiciness. Again, every person is different. I like a little spicy, so does my family. Again, I'm a very clean cook, so I like to use my gloves to add the chicken. The chicken actually gives it a little bit more flavor because of the fat from the chicken. So I really enjoy that part. So now, dried oregano, just 1 tablespoon of that. Dried basil, again, 1 tablespoon of that, and just mix. That's it. So now I know my consistency is great, because if it wasn't, I would see the olive oil separating from it. That's why you want to stir constantly to avoid from separating. But if it does separate, all you got to do is stir, and you get the same consistency. It's pretty good. Okay, so again, like I mentioned, when you let the noodles sit with the starches, it tends to stick together. So when that happens, all you have to do is shock it with cold water, and it loosens it up really easily. So now it's no longer sticky. So first I'm going to just plate some of the noodles. And then we can take the sauce. And then just plate the Alfredo sauce. Great consistency, not separated, which is exactly what I like. And then, if you want to be a little frisky, you can also garnish it with some extra Parmesan cheese. Bon appetit! And you can garnish with a little bit more basil if you like.
Hey guys, okay, this is the end of the video. Now we're gonna be doing some interview questions for Mom. So I guess first I want to start off, Mom, by asking you. So tell me the story, like how you discovered making chicken Alfredo for me.
Okay, so when I was a kid, my mom, one of her favorite restaurants was Olive Garden, and I only ordered the Alfredo. And I guess one day when they served it to me, it was kind of cold, so it looked like opaque jelly, and it kind of grossed me out. So I'm like, there has to be a way to have this and it don't look like this. So, I just started playing around, looking online and stuff like that, and I figured out how to make Alfredo. And then from there, after years of cooking, I learned how to put my own spin on it, and that's how I was able to make my own recipe. And I only made the recipe because your brother was in Germany and he asked how to make it, so he asked me to make a recipe. So I said, I guess I can make a recipe for it, and from there, that's how I made the recipe for chicken Alfredo.
Okay. So I know that you love making food. You love making food all the time.
Yes.
You always love experimenting.
I do.
So why do you specifically love coming back to this recipe?
For me, I feel like it's kind of nostalgic in a way, because again, I ate this as a kid at a restaurant. And now that it's so easy to make, and then after making it for you and your brother and your dad, and they tend to love it too, it just seemed like a staple. So, and it's always a comforting food, and it's always delicious, and it always hit the right spot. So because of that, that's the reason why I keep coming back to it.
Okay. And another thing that I've noticed is that for the video, of course, you started measuring it out, the ingredients and how much you use, but normally you don't do that. You just go off the feeling of it. How would you describe this feeling, I guess?
I feel like because I've made it so many times, it's just something that's kind of natural to me. I automatically know what to do with it. Prime example, when I made it this time, usually I measured out for the cayenne pepper, and usually I don't measure it. So when my husband made it, or when Dad ate it, he was like, it didn't have that spice. Yeah. So usually I usually add more cayenne pepper to it opposed to measuring it out. So I did it for the video, but for me, because I made it so much, it's almost like muscle memory. Okay. So yeah.
Okay, so since this is a very delectable pasta that you made, do you have any other pasta recipes you like making? Or?
I do. There's one recipe I love making during this time of year, which is Halloween and fall. I like to make an ink squid pasta with with the spicy tomato sauce and seared scallops. It's really delicious. I love making that. I also like making a Tuscan chicken pasta dish where it has sun-dried tomatoes and chicken thighs, and that it has a nice tarty, acidic tanginess to it. Yeah. So those are some of my two other pasta recipes that I love making as well.
Okay. For everybody else, watching the video or whatever, what is your go-to advice for, especially making this dish in particular? What's a tip that you would give them?
Well, the tip I would give, for me, because of my profession where you have to be very sanitized.
Oh, she's a dentist, by the way.
Yes. So it's very important to be clean. For me, I have long, thick hair, just like my baby does. And, I usually try to bun my hair in the back or just pull it back in some kind of way. And I'm wearing gloves when I can to avoid stuff being under my nails. You don't want to serve food to somebody and they see your hair, or it's just a haphazard. You want to just be super clean. Also when I cook, I always have hand sanitizer and antibacterial soap next to the kitchen sink.
Always.
It's always a big thing for me. So that's one of the definite things I like to do when it comes to cooking. You want to be a clean cook. You don't want your kitchen to be messy as well. You want to keep it clean. That's one thing. And another thing is, as you're working, don't be afraid to test out your food as you're cooking it. Some people will just start cooking the food and just boom, there you go. No, it's your food. You're serving it to people. You want to make sure it tastes good to you too. So, you want to make sure that you're, playing around with it and get a feel of what you like, what you don't like, what spices are good, which ones don't. Cooking should be fun. So always just enjoy playing around with it. Me as a foodie, I love food. So it's fun. So yeah.
So second to last question. Since you make this a lot, and you like to measure out. You don't really measure out exactly how much you're using.
Mhm.
What's like a common, I guess, like mistake that comes with that? Like, you know, sometimes like, you know, you hear from dad all the time, like, oh, it doesn't taste exactly
Mhm.
as it did last time,
Mhm.
but it's still good regardless. So
Mhm.
like, what would you say like is like the one thing that you're like, oh, like man, I should have added more of this every single time?
No, I don't say that. Unless you cooking it, you don't have no opinion on it.
Okay.
That's it. If it's good,
Okay.
just eat it and shut up.
Okay. And I guess one last question is, for like going forward with more pasta dishes, you know, which one that you've been having your eye on that you want to try out? Something that you might have seen on like on a website or.
That's a really great question, because the one I really was excited about was playing with ink squid pasta, because it has, you know, they say it have a fishy taste to it.
Yeah.
So for me to play around, because fishy taste isn't the most ideal, but when you serve it with a seafood, it really complements it really, really well. So I think trying more dishes with inked squid pastas is something I'm really trying to do for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes the interview section. Thank you again, Mom,
You're welcome, sweetie.
for having me. All right, and that's the end of my video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you.